Hi, I just have a little announcement that I'd like to make. You've seen that we have redone the floors in the church, and what that has done is it has allowed us to open up a lot of the spaces that we have up at the front of the church where there was a lot of furniture that we actually weren't using. And so this will allow us a little bit of flexibility around worship, and especially around special services like Christmas. We'll have a better place to be able to put our Advent wreath, and we'll have more space for the children to be able to do Christmas play, that kind of a thing. Maybe even if we have invite in another musician, so say we have flautists or we have a cello player to accompany Elaine, then we have a spot to be able to put them. So it was needed. We needed to do this because our carpet was starting to wrinkle up and it was becoming quite worn, and so it was necessary to be able to change the flooring. We have one other thing or a couple other things that we're trying to do. So one of the things we are going to do is we want to be able to get some cathedral seating. These are sort of nice wooden chairs that we can put in place for choir members, but also to be able to use for other purposes in the sanctuary as well. They're not as big as pews, so they will allow us to be able to move them around a little bit. So for example, if we have a smaller group meeting, we can put them in a semicircle in the sanctuary area and have a prayer meeting there, the shape of it would be conducive to that meeting. So it allows us a lot more flexibility if we get those chairs. And we want to be able to use chairs that are appropriate to worship. And that means that they're a little more, they're not your usual chairs. They're of a higher quality. They're a little more artistic. And this is you might remember the story about Jesus and the alabaster jar, where a woman wants to show honor to Jesus, and she breaks this alabaster jar of perfume and pours it on Jesus as an extravagant sign of her love. And our sanctuary is a little bit like that. We want to do something extravagant for God, to show our love and our care and to draw us into worship in a powerful way. So I won't get too far into that, but the other thing that we're thinking about doing is actually changing the back wall. So you'll see that it's kind of a beige brick. And you might not know this, that this building was actually never meant to be the worship space for St. Leonard's originally. This building was built to be the hall, and then the proper church building was going to be what is now the parking lot. And so this was actually, the brick was never meant to be the worship wall, the wall where we worship, where we face our, and it has served us very well. But one of the things that we're thinking about doing is putting a rock face, which is a more organic rock that we can put over top of that brick. And the reason for this, in my thinking, is that to have a more organic, ancient-looking rock draws us into something that is ancient. Symbolically, it is drawing us into that ancient worship of this God who is the creator. The other thing that we're thinking about doing, potentially, is placing some curtains on either side, so behind the piano, and on the other side behind where the choir will be seated. And what that'll do is it'll help us control some sound. But I think it's also really interesting symbolically that in the temple there was this curtain, and you'll remember that when Jesus died, that curtain in the temple was torn from top to bottom. And I think it would be an interesting symbol if we had curtains on either side that symbolized that curtain that was torn in two, because symbolically, liturgically, the Lord's table is kind of the Holy of Holies. It's the Ark of the Covenant. It is the place where we meet and have communion with our Lord in the most intimate way possible. So this space is now available to us because what Christ has done is torn this curtain that separated us from intimacy with our God. And I think that would be an interesting symbol to use in our worship. So these are thoughts that we're working on as corporation and as a parish council, and we'll continue to bring more information to you as things come about. So I hope that makes you feel excited. I know it gets me excited. I think it's really neat and beautiful to see our worship space renewed in this way. And I think it will be helpful to draw us into worship, but also to express our extravagant love of our Lord.